Today we're starting up a new section, and this is about British imperialism in India. Go ahead and make a new section title, British imperialism. So we talked about kind of the early days of India. We talked about them as a river valley civilization. We talked about how they kind of developed the river valley civilization. And throughout India's history, they don't go to war with anybody else. It's not like they go and they try to conquer anybody else. And no big powers really come into India and try to take them over. There is some taking over a little bit of northern sectors of India, like over here. There's a little bit of taking over that part by like the Persians and later on Alexander the Great, and a little bit about descendants of the Mongolians come into kind of this northern area here. But India itself is never really conquered fully by anybody. That's until the British do fully do so, and that's what we're going to skip all the way to that time period of when the British take over in India. Let's make a bullet, and we're going to write down setting the stage. So we had our section title, British imperialism, and now we have bullet, setting the stage. So when did the British become interested in taking over territory in India? Well, that was in about the 1600s. So in the 1600s is when the British could start bringing ships over to India area, and that's when they became interested in then establishing outposts and ports there and trading areas where they could buy stuff from India. Go ahead and make a 1, and we're going to write down British economic interest in India began in the 1600s. So in the 1600s, the British were quite interested in taking over territory in India. They were kind of becoming interested in, expanding out there and such. So I said, really just started at first with just trading posts. So this kind of set up a little place where they could trade at with people from India, and that was about it. However, it starts to expand from there. Now, a lot of the interest they mainly had with them was for spices. All right, go ahead and make it 2. Write down spices. Now, when I say spices, I don't mean like nutmeg, for example. I don't mean that. We're talking about hot spices. All right. So when you think of spices in the historical context, we're talking about like chili peppers. Okay. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about hot spices. All right. So not green peppers, talking about chili peppers, hot spices, that's what we're talking about. So that was the main thing that they were interested in with India for, was the spices, was first of all hot spices. Now, as I said, the descendants of the Mongolians, the Mughals here, they had come down into India, and they had kind of taken over this northern part of India. And you can see they got down pretty far into India. So you saw this area kind of here in white is the area that the Mughals controlled. So they controlled quite a bit. However, by 1707, they had pretty much collapsed and lost control of this area down here and had gotten pushed pretty far up to the north. Go ahead and make a 3. 1707, the Mughal Empire was collapsing. So 3, 1707, the Mughal Empire was collapsing. So the Mughal Empire is collapsing from 1707 and onward, and they lose control of that northern part of India. At the same time that they were losing control of the northern part of India, that's when the British were making more and more expansions into the area. So the British were coming more and more into the area. Now, the British government itself wasn't fully involved in the area. Instead, it was a company that was mainly in the area that was making a whole bunch of trades and making a whole bunch of money. Go ahead and make a 4 and write down East India Company. So 4, East India Company. So East India Company, number 4. Now, the East India Company was mainly involved in trading in the area. So they were doing big trades in the area, taking stuff, and then sending it back to Britain. So they were involved quite a lot with trading. Now, they do get physically involved in the area in 1757, where they conquer the province of Bengal. Bengal's right here in this area. So in 1757, the East India Company takes over that territory, and they hold on to it. Go ahead, take a 5. We're going to write down conquered the province of Bengal. So conquered the province of Bengal, this area right there. And that kind of got the East India Company a foothold on India. So that gave them kind of a foothold on India. And once they had a foothold in India, they then started to expand slowly from that point. So what does their expansion look like? Well, let me go ahead and show you what their expansion looked like. So this map right here, the dark purple areas are the places that the British took over first. The East India Company took over first. The next areas are kind of like this darker purple right there. Okay, so that's the areas they expand into next. Then kind of into the magenta areas here, and then into the light pink areas. The dark green areas were dependent upon the East India Company, and eventually the Maratha Confederacy. And here kind of falls in 1805 to the British. So by the time we get to 1805, this area here is all controlled by the British. Well, East India Company. So East India Company controls all that. Make a bullet, write down East India Company. So bullet, East India Company. So the East India Company, the way how they're able to maintain control over the area is for the use of seppos. Those are Indian soldiers. So go ahead and make a 1 and write down seppo and then equal sign Indian soldier. So the seppos, they're Indian soldiers, and they work for the East India Company. And that's how the East India Company is able to maintain kind of control of their territory in India, is by using these guys to help them out. So the East India Company would recruit people, then it would train them up, and then they would have those guys work for them in controlling the area. So the British, so the British controlled a huge empire. You can see right here on this map, every place here that's in pink is a place that the British controlled. So you can see that they have quite a lot of territory that they controlled. So quite a lot of territory that the British controlled. And India was considered to be the crown in the jewel of, or jewel in the crown of the empire. There was a lot of people that lived there. They produced a lot of goods. So India was considered to be pretty important in the empire. Go ahead and make a 2. And we're going to write down, where do I want to put this exactly at? One sec. Let me add in a text box here. Okay. So go ahead and make another 2. And we're going to write down India required. Whoops. India required to buy British finished goods. And I'll explain what that means. So we're going to write that for number 2. India required to buy British finished goods. So what would happen is you kind of look down our little graph down here. India would make raw materials. All right, so they would make some type of raw material. It could be cotton, for example. That cotton was then sent back to England. When that cotton got to England, they would turn that raw material into finished goods, like a shirt, for example. Those finished goods would then be sent back to India to then be sold in India. And the people in India couldn't buy anything that was not produced by the British. So India would basically get all the raw materials for it, cotton, for example, or it might be some metal, whatever. Those raw materials would then be sent over to Britain. They would turn those into a finished good, like a shirt, for example, axe, for example, whatever they made it into, send that back to India, and India could only purchase things that were made in Britain. What was the reason for that? So that people in Britain could make more money. Pretty simple, right? Because you're having things made cheap here, sent here, made into a finished product, sent back over here and sold for more money than what it cost, than what it would cost to just produce the thing here. A couple of things were made in the area. I'll go ahead and make a 3 and write down established a railroad network. So 3, established a railroad network. Railroad network was important for bringing items that were produced in the interior parts of India out to the exterior parts. A couple of things that they produced in the interior parts were like tea, indigo, coffee, cotton, and jute. What's indigo? It's up here in the upper right. Let me make this bigger screen for you. So indigo is up here in the upper right. Jute is down here. Use that for clothing. And coffee is right here. So normally when you think of coffee, right, you think of coffee beans, all right? You think of coffee beans. But coffee comes from the coffee cherry. When it's unripe, it's green. When it's ready to be picked, it's a dark red. And then you just take the cherry off and the seeds are inside the cherry. No, I do not know if a coffee cherry is any good. It might taste like a cherry, but coffee flavored, which sounds gross. All right. Let's go ahead and stop there for today.